everybody, Nostradamus here. Welcome to my channel. Everything in my videos is entirely my own work, my own ideas, unless I say otherwise, and it's up to you whether you believe it or not. In my videos, I endeavour to show you just how fucked the human race is as a species, and how totally fucked the whole planet is as a whole because of the human species. And I've got a few more reasons of why we're so fucked to present to you in this video now. And I'm going to start on the pig shite. Germany confirms 3 more cases of African swine fever in wild boar. An additional 3 cases of African swine fever have been detected in Brandenburg, bringing Germany's number of confirmed cases to 32. And this is from a couple of days ago. Reuters' latest update was issued on the 24th of November. All of Germany's African swine fever cases have been in wild boar. No farmed pigs have been affected as yet. All have been found in the region of the first discovery in the Brandenburg area. Germany's Friedrich-Loeffler Scientific Institute had confirmed the latest 3 animals had ASF. China and a series of other pork buyers banned imports of German pork this month after the first case, causing Chinese pork prices to surge this week. The disease is not dangerous to humans, but it is fatal to pigs, and a massive outbreak in China, the world's biggest pork producer, has led to hundreds of millions of pigs being culled. The German ministry had warned previously that more cases in wild boar were to be expected, as animals move around in groups and the disease is easily transmissible. All dead wild boar in the Brandenburg region are being tested for the disease. The Brandenburg regional government has decided to build a fixed fence called the Brandenburg Gate to prevent wild boar crossing from Poland into Germany. Germany had feared a spread of the disease after wild boar in Poland were confirmed only about 10 kilometers from Germany. Several hundred kilometers of temporary cattle fences had been set up along Germany's border with Poland. German pig prices remained stable this week on hopes of increased exports to the EU as other European exporters raise sales to China and elsewhere in Asia to fill the sudden gap left by the German import bans. Whatever happens, they'll overblow the whole situation, make it sound a lot worse than what it actually is, so they can disrupt the food supply even further, so they can try and impose even more controls on the population. No more pork chops soon. Only your lab-grown meat. Yum yum. So what else has China been up to this week? This is from The Guardian from Friday. Peru. Chinese fishing flotilla nears Peruvian waters, prompting US Beijing spat. Huge armada moves from Galapagos Islands towards Peru. China rejects US embassy insinuation of overfishing. Well, they've cleaned out the Galapagos Islands till there's nothing left, and now they're going to Peru. Huge fishing armada of Chinese vessels has moved south from the Galapagos Islands towards Peru's territorial waters, dragging the South American country into a diplomatic Twitter row between Washington and Beijing. Earlier this week, the US Embassy in Lima tweeted a warning in Spanish that more than 300 Chinese-flagged vessels with a record of changing boat names and deactivating GPS trackers were heading towards Peru, and these vessels, they're huge. Overfishing can cause huge ecological and economic damage. Peru cannot afford such a loss, it said. China's embassy retorted with its own tweet, insisting that its deep-water fishing fleet respected international law and strictly obeyed Peruvian laws and limited itself to operating in the high seas. Whatever. We hope the Peruvian public won't be fooled by false information, it said. The online spat was the latest sign of growing tensions over the presence of giant flotilla, which was first detected off the Galapagos archipelago in July, stirring outrage in Ecuador and raising global concern about the practices of the world's largest deep-water fishing fleet. During just 1 month, the vast fleet logged an astonishing 73,000 hours of fishing, pulling up thousands of tons of squid and fish as hundreds of boats scoured the sea on the southern limit of the Galapagos Islands' territorial waters, according to data analysis by the Marine Conservation Group, Oceana. And this is from August. They just pull up everything. Chinese fleet raises fears for Galapagos sea life. Indiscriminate fishing practices. Chinese reefer ship Fu Yuan Yu Leng 999 was intercepted in the Galapagos Marine Reserve in 2017 with about 300 tons of mostly sharks, including protective species. That's one ship. Now there's 300 ships. Oh. That's where the fleet was. And then they turned the GPS off and then they've gone over here. And just, they're just raping the seas. There'd be nothing left though. It'd just be like, the seabed would be like a moonscape. Anyway, I've had enough of that. Let's carry on something else. BBC News article from last week. Climate change. China aims for carbon neutrality by 2060. Well done, China. Superb. China will aim to hit peak emissions before 2030. So we've only got another 10 years of increased emissions until they start cutting it. Great. And carbon neutrality by 2060, President Xi Jinping has announced. Mr. Xi outlined the steps when speaking via video link to the UN General Assembly in New York. The announcement is being seen as a significant step in the fight against climate change. China is the world's biggest source of carbon dioxide, responsible for around 28% of global emissions. Well, isn't that good news, everybody? Oh, I'll sleep well tonight. Right, let's get on to the climate. Science alert. As if 2020 wasn't enough, climate change is now raising zombie storms from the dead. You've heard about zombie fires, now we've got zombie storms. Wildfires are burning the west coast, hurricanes are flooding the southeast, and some of those storms are rising from the dead. Zombie storms, which regain strength after initially petering out, are the newest addition to the year 2020, and those undead weather anomalies are becoming more common thanks to climate change. Because 2020, we now have zombie tropical storms. Welcome back to the land of the living, Tropical Storm Paulette, the National Weather Service wrote on Twitter on Tuesday. And that was on the 22nd. Earlier this month, Tropical Storm Paulette formed in the Atlantic Ocean and made landfall in Bermuda as a Cat 1 hurricane, strengthened over land into a Cat 2 before weakening and dying off 5.5 days later. But then, Paulette opened her frightening eye once again. She wasn't gone. Paulette regained strength and became a tropical storm once more, about 300 miles away from the Azores Island on Monday, 21st of September. The term zombie storm is new, and though the phenomenon has been recorded before, it is thought to be rare. But zombie storms are going to happen more often, said Donald Woobles, a professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Now, for this section of Phone Age News, I'd like to carry on from my previous video, which highlighted the fluctuations of atmospheric carbon dioxide between the daytime and the nighttime. I'd like to give massive thanks to Nick for sending me these couple of articles in relation to my dying breaths video. This is absolutely fascinating. This is from November 2017. Plants release up to 30% more CO2 than previously thought. There's those words again. Study says. New research suggests plants could be releasing more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than previously thought. A study involving the Australian National University, Western Sydney University, and centres around the world has found plants release more carbon dioxide through their respiration. And as global temperatures rise, scientists say the output of carbon dioxide by plants will accelerate. During daylight hours, plants take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen through photosynthesis, and at night, only about half that carbon is then released through respiration. However, plants still remain a net carbon sink, meaning they absorb more than they emit. Currently, around 25% of carbon emissions from the use of fossil fuels is being taken up and stored by plants, which is good, as it helps reduce the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Our work suggests that this positive contribution of plants may decline in the future as they begin to respire more as the world warms. Professor Atkins said plants were previously thought to respire 5 to 8 times the carbon that is produced by human activity. However, the new findings suggested that number could be much higher. Each year, the burning of fossil fuels releases about 5 to 8 billion tonnes of carbon, so the respiration by plants is somewhere approaching 11 times that in our new estimate, he says. That's an enormous flux. What will happen in the future will be that these rates of carbon released by plants will increase as the world gets warmer, and it will have an impact on how much carbon is stored in vegetation, how much accumulates in the atmosphere in the future. The study examined about 1,000 plant species in a range of climate extremes to determine how much carbon dioxide is released in various scenarios. This will have fairly substantial implications for our ability to model carbon flows between landscapes and the atmosphere, and ultimately how much carbon dioxide accumulates in the atmosphere. Researchers said plants could also see a declining ability to absorb carbon dioxide currently in the atmosphere through photosynthesis, and that carbon flow models and budget projections would need to be altered in response to the findings. Wherever you look in the world, plants have evolved to live and thrive in their particular habitat and environments. And with the global warming, I believe that we're now just seeing the signs of what heat stress is doing to them. They're just not able to hold on to as much of the CO2 that they absorb during the daytime. They're releasing it at night, and add to the fact that the oceans are practically getting to the point now of carbon saturation. This isn't looking good at all. This is the second article that Nick sent me from October in 2018. High CO2 levels cause plants to thicken their leaves, which could worsen climate change effects, researchers say. Plant scientists have observed that when levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere rise, most plants do something unusual. They thicken their leaves. And since human activity is raising atmospheric carbon dioxide levels, thick leaf plants appear to be in our future. But the consequences of this physiological response go far beyond heftier leaves on many plants. Two University of Washington scientists have discovered that plants with thicker leaves may exacerbate the effects of climate change because they would be less efficient in sequestering atmospheric carbon, a fact that climate change models to date have not taken into account. This is quite a long article, so I'll leave the link below if you want to read every bit of it, but I'll pick out a few pointers. In a paper published online by the Global Biogeochemical Cycles, the researchers report that when they incorporated this information into global climate models under the high atmospheric carbon dioxide levels expected later this century, the global carbon sink contributed by plants was less productive, leaving about 5.8 extra petrograms or 6.39 billion tonnes of carbon in the atmosphere per year. Those levels are similar to the amount of carbon released into the atmosphere each year due to human-generated fossil fuel emissions at 8 petrograms or 8.8 billion tonnes. Leaves can thicken by as much as a third, which changes the ratio of surface area to mass in the leaf and alters plant activities like photosynthesis, gas exchange, evaporative cooling, and sugar storage. Plants are crucial modulators of their environment. Without them, Earth's atmosphere wouldn't contain the oxygen that we breathe, and Kavanaugh and Swan believed that this critical and predictable leaf thickening response was an ideal starting point to try to understand how widespread changes to plant physiology will affect the Earth's climate. So at the end of the article, we've got this basically a feedback map. This is the extra warming that would be caused by changes in plants. On top of the other warming, so the warming causes changes, the global warming changes plant growth, and the changes in the plants adds that on top of it, if you know what I mean. Thanks again, Nick, for those articles. Very interesting. Explains a lot. Right, now I just want to focus on this area in northern Zambia, where the temperatures have been hovering around 100 degrees today. These are the maximum temperatures. And what's been going on with the CO2 levels around the area. So I now come over to Null School. I'm on chemicals, carbon dioxide, and I'm looking at Africa. And this is at 5:30 in the morning, local time, at the end of the night, when the carbon dioxide levels reach their peak. Bear in mind, this is earlier on today, and we've got 467 parts per million. There's a huge area with high levels of carbon dioxide. It's 461 over here, 457, 459, and down here 453. You don't get these levels in the daytime. The daytime the levels are much lower, and it seems to flare up and build up during the night. And this is the vegetation giving up the CO2 that's taken up. It can't hold on to it. And the implications of this are, well, it's happening. It's happening right now. Wherever you get excess heat, the plants can't cope. They're out of their comfort zone. Now it's time for the cow fat report. Methane levels have shot up this week when they're supposed to be slowing down, approaching their autumn-winter maximum. If you want to see how I arrive at my figures, then check out my previous videos. It's all explained in there. This week, from the lower atmosphere, from the ground up to 300 millibars, we've increased by 2.5 parts per billion. This graph shows the last 12 months of methane levels at this level in the atmosphere. And as you can see, from last year's peak, it went down, up, down, and now we're up here, and it looks to be accelerating upwards again at 1868.1. Focusing in on the 300 millibar level in the atmosphere, we reached the annual low on middle of February this year at 1860.75, and since then at 300 millibars it seems to have an almost continuous rise. This was mid-February 2020, and this is now. Recently, this week, since last week, it's gone up by 4.25 parts per billion in just 7 days. Taking a closer look at the higher atmosphere where the methane does collect, this data has been collected from the 4th of July, when I started recording data high up at 151 millibars. See, we've had a dramatic increase in the last 7 days at 477 and at 300, and it's just about 3 months worth of data, and it's gone up 477. It's gone up by over 21 parts per billion. At 300 millibars, it's gone up by 24 parts per billion. And as a matter of fact, that is 24 parts per billion higher than it was this time last year. And at 151, it's gone up by 17.5 parts per billion. But expect a jump at 151 millibars in the next week or two as this lot rises up and gives this a bit of a boost. And the green line is an average of the three. And we're seeing, it looks like we're seeing an acceleration, which we shouldn't be seeing really at this time of year. It should be flattening the curve, not going that way. The average for the 300 millibars, 1913. These are the satellite measurements on the NOAA website I took my readings from, and as usual, the METOP 2 satellite always gives a reading of 20 to 30 parts per billion lower than the METOP 1 satellite, and I don't know why that is. Perhaps somebody will explain it to me one day. But the METOP 1 afternoon satellite was recording an average figure of 1,929 parts per billion, which is a record. Here in the UK, the governments are reporting more and more cases of COVID-19 and more deaths. And of course, they're implementing more and more restrictions to our freedoms. I've got up here the latest available data from the Office of National Statistics for England and Wales, and this is showing the number of deaths involving COVID-19 occurrences and registrations demographically. How interesting. And we've got 2 weeks. I've shown the last 2 weeks of available data. So the next week will be available in a couple of days. This is week ending the 4th of September. And as you can see, we've got 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and we've got 2 occurrences at age 45 to 49. And then another 2 at 50 to 54. We've got a population of about 67 million. 2 people. As the numbers rise as we get into the 50s, 60s, 70s. We get into the real old codgers, coffin dodgers. And Then we've got weekend in the 11th of September. Young babies, young infants, primary school kids, secondary school kids, young adults, teenagers. Oh, there's one. 30 to 34-year-old. The ones and twos. Ones and twos. Oh, there's now got to 5. 60 to 64-year-old. 10, 15s. 23. 23 deaths involving COVID-19 registrations. 85 to 89. Now, there's a simple solution. Why? Carry on as normal, right? You shield the vulnerable and the elderly and let the young people get on with it, get the herd immunity, nobody dies, maybe a couple of people that's already got serious health problems anyway. In a couple of months, it's gone. Sorted. I don't mean to sound heartless, but the people that are dying were at death's doors anyway. COVID's just finishing them off. What about the millions of people that's losing their jobs and thousands of people not getting the cancer treatments because of all this bollocks? I can't get my head around it at all. It's just the old fogies dying. Massive anti-lockdown protest in Trafalgar Square yesterday. It was all called conspiracy theorists. Well, no, they've got their heads screwed on. Nice peaceful protest. Look at them. Fascists. You're not allowed to protest peacefully. What the hell is going on? And some speeches made. Powerful speeches. Look at them. They're taking away our freedom. And this is happening all over the world, not just in the UK. We've got to fight for our freedom. Don't believe this bullshit that they're feeding us. It's wrong. Totally wrong. Peaceful protest. You're not allowed to voice your opinion anymore. Not allowed to fight for your freedom and what's right.
That's a non-stop fight, isn't it?
shift. It was a peaceful protest till they turned up, and it looks like the worst videos of police brutality have been taken down, because I can't find them now. Oh dear.
And now for something completely different.
I want to talk now about one of the greatest prophetic films ever made in cinematic history, Soylent Green. Soylent Green is 47 years old. Can you believe it? Made in 1973, an ecological dystopian thriller film, loosely based on the 1966 science fiction novel Make Room, Make Room. It combines both police procedural and science fiction genres, the investigation into a murder of a wealthy businessman and a dystopian future of dying oceans and year-round humidity due to the greenhouse effect, resulting in suffering from pollution, poverty, overpopulation, euthanasia, and depleted resources. Sounds familiar? In 1973, it won the Nebula Award for Best Dramatic Presentation and the Saturn Award for Best Science Fiction Film. And it's set in the year 2022. This film was written 50 years previous to 2022. The cumulative effects of overpopulation, pollution, and some apparent climate catastrophe have caused severe worldwide shortages of food, water, and housing. There are 40 million people living in New York City, where only the city's elite can afford spacious apartments, clean water, and natural food, and even then at horrendously high prices. The homes of the elites usually include concubines, who are referred to as furniture, and serve the tenants as slaves. Makes me cry every time I watch it. And on the off chance you've never seen it's an absolute must. It's brilliant. But now the elite are taking the piss out of us. Because look what we can go and buy. It's called Soylent Meal Replacement Shake. 5 flavour variety pack. Pack of 15. Only £190. Plus delivery. All these protein meal replacement blends. Soylent Meal Replacement Shake. Strawberry. 12 pack. Have a look. Have a look at this one. Can you believe they're calling it Soylent? Come on. Soylent Beverages. Was £306. Save 39.87%. Oh my God. Notice how none of them's green coloured yet. That's coming.
It's people. Soylent Green is made out of people.
Doctors are preparing to implant the world's first human bionic eye. A team of researchers at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia, has built a bionic device that they say can restore vision to the blind through a brain implant. The team is now preparing for what they claim will be the world's first human clinical trials of a bionic eye and are asking for additional funding to eventually manufacture it on a global scale. The system is made up of a custom-designed headgear, which includes a camera and a wireless transmitter. A processor unit takes care of data crunching, while a set of tiles implanted inside the brain deliver the signals.
We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man. Steve Austin will be that man. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster.
Well, that's enough for now. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Tune in next time, if there is a next time. Love to everyone. Goodbye.